So, how is everyone? I hope you're all well. You kind of, with this case, we're doing videos, a lot of videos, and, there's a lot of criticism out there at the moment with regards to the true crime niche, content creators, and people saying that, look, we're just talking about this case over and over again, there's no new news, and look, we've heard it all before, we have. But I don't want to feel like I'm having to make an excuse. But what I'm saying is that this is why we do it. We do it because if we don't, then what happens to the case? For those of you who followed the Summer Wells case, as soon as content creators moved on because there was nothing really happening in the Summer Wells case, so they started looking at other cases, that case very, very quickly went cold. It did. The only thing that kept that case alive and in the forefront of a lot of people's minds were content creators talking about it and, going over stuff, restarting from the beginning and, going through it so new people who perhaps hadn't heard about it could hear about it. So you're caught between the devil and deep blue sea because you either stop talking about this case and allow it to go through its natural progression to ultimately some kind of conclusion, or you talk about it and you make sure that people who perhaps are in the background, they understand that people are still keeping an eye. They are expecting a certain degree of work to be put into it, that people are keeping an eye on it. That's why I do it. I do it because I just feel that I've seen with other cases. Michael Vaughan is another one. Since nobody really dares to talk about the Michael Vaughan case, what do you know about it? Where is that case right now? What is the latest update on it? What is going on with that case? Who knows? But most importantly, I feel that Kylie was let down on her last day. And I don't want to be one of them people who let her down now. Because I was talking about this party to a friend of mine because he said, what case are you looking at? And I told him about this case. And we was talking about the fact that Kylie had obviously gone to this party. She had turned up with a friend who had very quickly decided that she had to leave because older people were there. You heard it, pushing bong rips and stuff like that on, and it just wasn't a very pleasant place to be. So it would appear that she then left Kylie to go and hang about with Sammy. We've all got opinions about Sammy, and my opinion, which is only based on what I've seen of the girl. Do you know what I mean? And who knows? We could have got her completely wrong. I don't feel like we have, because I feel that she is almost goading social media now. I think that she is truly reveling in it, and she is actively putting stuff out there that she knows will antagonise. And whether she's doing it because she's got nothing to hide but she's just giving us the finger, or I just don't get it. But when I think that Kylie's friend left her and then she started hanging about with this girl and then she left, and my friend went, well, who did she leave her with then? Who was she with then? And I found myself thinking, well, I don't know. I don't know what happened after that. Who else was Kylie hanging about with at the party? Because the only people who have stepped forward are, as we've said before, the likes of Elsa, who has talked about her interactions with Kylie right towards the end of the night and put herself forward as one of the last, or if not the last person to see her. We've got, you've got Sammy, who I don't really know what was happening there, because in one breath she's saying she was going to get a lift home, then she wasn't going to because Kylie had been drinking, then she turned around and said that they'd embraced and she'd said she was leaving and to get home safe, be safe, and all that, and then they had another phone conversation later on that would cover that same exact conversation again. Kylie would ask her whether she needs a lift. Now, with regards to that call, I do think to myself, what was that call really about? Because I don't think that that is what that call was about. I feel that Sammy had to address that call because there would be police records that say there was a conversation there. And perhaps that was the best, in her eyes, explanation to give for that call. But ultimately, because she'd spoken too much because she couldn't shut up previously, that meant that conversation surrounding that call then didn't make sense. Some people picked up on it, some people didn't. But it didn't make sense. Why would Kylie have had that conversation if not 15, 20 minutes earlier or so? They'd had it already. It had already been sorted. But ultimately, who was she left with? Why did all of the people who are now talking about the situation and coming forward to have discussions and interact with the public and with social media, these are all the people who left her at the party. They left her there. So who did they leave her there with? Did they not leave her with anyone? Why won't they mention anybody that they left her with? Why won't they mention anybody else's name? And maybe there's a reason for that. But when you think that this was a party that had several hundred people there, we've been told, there's not one photo, there's not one piece of video that we've seen. The only people who have come forward are these sort of this little tight-knit circle that the mother seems to be cycling around now. Someone said yesterday, maybe it was to do with Kylie's mum's spoon and Sammy. And, you see these photographs of these two in this embrace, and I just think this is just wrong. This is just absolutely wrong. Even if Sammy didn't do anything intentionally to Kylie, Sammy left her there. She was one of the girls who ultimately left Kylie at this party. And this woman is holding her in an embrace like they're sharing some special moment. They're at this celebration of life and they're wearing their almost going out clothes and they're smiling, and it's bizarre. It's bizarre. And then we hear almost about the Scientology situation that's around here. And look, Scientology around Lake Tahoe spans back years and years. In fact, there was a murder back, I believe it was in either the late 70s or early 80s, where two women were basically bound in chains and thrown into a lake out that way. And they were found later, and this is an unsolved cold case. And they had links to Scientology. So look, where you've got these people who are talking about these cults and these sort of, and I don't want to go down that route if I'm honest, there's enough people who are covering it, and it's just, the thing is with these kind of theories, they are almost a default. People will automatically default to cult if things are hard to talk about and we can't really get a clear picture of what is happening, and when people are acting bizarre and it's beyond what we would class as normality, it's very easy to just say cult, that's a cult, because that's how we treat things that we don't fully understand. But can it 100% be ruled out? It can't 100% be ruled out. It certainly can't. I'm not arrogant enough to say that, but it's just not something that I want to dig into at this time. But there are questions, and the questions I would ask at this stage is, who did they leave Kylie with? Who did they feel, or why did they feel it was appropriate and that it was safe to leave her at a party that though they themselves had deemed not to be so? And that call, that last call that Kylie made, that was between Sammy and Kylie, what was that call truly about? Was it Kylie asking whether Sammy wanted a lift? Or was it Kylie asking where she'd gone because she expected Sammy to be her lift? Like I say, I don't want to stop talking about the case. We are running out of things to talk about, and we are going over old news. We can scrutinise every little detail, Let me know down in the comments what you think we should be doing. Do you think it is time to allow this to run its course, or are there still things that we need to talk about, things that we can discuss, and is it time to look at things in a different light, look at them a bit closely, look at the individuals on the peripherals, such as Stephen. Stephen is a friend of Jagger who was at the party. This was a name that cropped up with Donna Serafina. He obviously did interact with Kylie on that night because Jagger did touch base with Stephen. I'm not going to give Stephen's other names, we're just going to reference him as Stephen. I'm sure that most of you who have been following this case are aware of who I'm talking about. He was a guy who had photographed Kylie. The pictures in the black dress that you see, some of them were actually taken by Stephen. There's a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of, like I say, the peripheral people. And I'm wondering whether some of these peripheral people are the people that Kylie knew, like Nate and Brandon. You know, these are people, Brandon, who, you know, Kylie had been to school with. That's Nate's brother. You know, there are reasons why some of these could have been involved in being with Kylie that night. I just struggle to think that a young girl, 16 years old, when we're hearing the things we're hearing about this party, that there's older people there, some of the people who are sort of frequent partiers, they even found it uncomfortable, but it just seems that every single person allowed Kylie to go off and do her own thing without checking in to make sure she was okay. That just don't sit right. Just doesn't see it. And it's not about going over and over and over the same thing. It's just about, the more I think about it, rather than coming to some conclusion or being able to, you know, think that it's not as bad as what I think it is, and am I just making it seem bad? It just seems worse the more I go over it. There's no reconciliation. I can't reconcile it. They let her down, and something don't sit right because of the way in which she was let down. That everybody just up sticks, apparently left her there. You don't leave people behind like that. True friends don't leave people behind like that. If there's a boy involved, it might be that they want to stay and they're staying with a boy, and that is a different scenario. But look, something don't sit right with this whole walking away and leaving her there. Let me know what you think.